Hi, my name is Richard Rue, and this is my presentation for our first book report for MBA 639. The first book I chose was What Investors Really Want by Meyer Statman. I hope I'm saying his name right. I tried to look it up. You'll have to forgive me if my voice cracks or anything. I'm pretty sick, so I'm fighting through this one for this presentation. So my first book was What Investors Really Want by Meyer Statman. And I found this book really interesting because it kind of was a great first read in this course because it sets a good foundation for behavioral finance and behavioral economics. The book starts out giving you a little compare and contrast as to kind of what behavioral economics is, behavioral finance, and kind of always throughout the whole book goes back to here's what traditional economics tells us. And here's what behavioral economics, behavioral finance, these fields can kind of tell us and add on to those theories of traditional economics and traditional finance. One of the first things that I read in the book that I thought was really cool to read and really cool to think about was his discussion about the yen, where he said he was at a dinner party and with a bunch of other, I think they were college professors, and people found out that he was a finance professor. And of course, what do? When they see a finance professor or a person who works in finance? They say, what stocks do I need to invest in? How can I make the most money and things like that? And so this guy asked him, where can I buy the Japanese yen? And Statman responded by saying, why do you want to buy the Japanese yen? And the guy said, well, I think the U.S. economy is crashing, the Asian markets are growing strongly, and I think the dollar is going to lose its value, and therefore the yen is going to be a good investment. And the guy listed off many other reasons, Japanese technology, things like that. And after going through them all, Statman responds, I think he's kind of funny. He goes, well, what makes you think that you're smarter than Goldman Sachs or these other massive brokerage firms that kind of run the financial markets? These are the people who are selling you the yen. And he pointed out the fact that if you can buy something, that means someone's willing to sell it. So if you can buy a stock, someone's willing to sell it. And that is the whole theory that drives our stock exchanges and much of our financial markets. And when you think about it, if someone's willing to sell it, they're betting that that stock's going to go down. Well, you're betting that that stock's going to go up. So what makes you so much smarter or more certain than these other people, especially when they're coming from these massive brokerage firms that have thousands and thousands of employees, data analysts and hedge funds managers that are looking at these things, analyzing trends, and can spot things probably better than the individual investor can. So he kind of points out that our traditional rules of economics, where everything's dictated by rational choice, this wouldn't work. I kind of took an extension on that. This wouldn't work. Traditional economics would not purely work in financial markets, because if everyone knew the rational choice and could make the rational choice, there would be no buying and selling. Everyone would know what to buy, what to sell. So traditional economics kind of relies on perfect information, whereas behavioral finance, I think, is more realistic because there's no such thing as perfect information. And so where behavioral finance comes in is the psychology that we can use to predict how, when, how much, and why people are going to buy, sell, trade, exchange stocks in the stock market. And that's kind of the premise of Statman's book and what he talks about, what investors really want. What do they want from their investments? Yes, they want to make a profit, but there's so many other things that go into it that are really driving this buying and selling behavior that we're seeing going on. So he broke his book into 16 different chapters. These chapters range from we want to play and we want to win, whereas we want to get high status and proper respect from the stocks. I think the last one that I just kind of mentioned is pretty cool, pretty important to think about, because you hear it all the time when you go to, I mean, obviously not at our college parties at St. Bonaventure, but when you go to dinner parties and things like that, you hear people talk about all the time, oh, I just bought this company and it soared, it shot through the roof, and things like that. Statman points out the thing like Amazon, where it was kind of cool to buy into Amazon, and you were a smart guy if you bought into Amazon. And he also uses Amazon as an example for Chapter 5, where he talks about herds and bubbles. And so what happens is people start talking about these stocks, they get really excited about them, like Amazon, Facebook, things like that. People get really excited about them, and they herd into these stocks and artificially inflate the value of the stock, causing IPOs to be way higher than they should be. In Amazon in 1999 and 2001, the Amazon bubble popped. It exploded because there were just so many people investing in it. And there was actually no financial data to support the value that was being put on the stock market for Amazon. And that had nothing to do with traditional economics. It had everything to do with behavioral economics and how people think. And what people think is going to drive what they want to buy, what becomes popular, is the stock that will rise, not necessarily the stock that has great financial value or great financial backing. Now, I mean, that's not to disparage the fact that we still want to buy stocks that yield high returns, stocks that are paying high dividends, mutual funds that are consistently returning, yielding high returns and things like that. Obviously, those stocks are going to still be more popular. But it's things like that that Statement explores in depth in his book that were really interesting to me. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I'm excited to read the other one. Thanks.